PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, the Star Wars podcast, featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. Much better, much better.
Yeah, a little bit of a technical mishap at the start there, but
by the same, I'll throw myself right under the bus. In the opening, I actually mirrored the image to my Crown Jewels theme song, so we're gonna get a totally different version. Queen doing Star Wars, which actually would be kind of cool as well. But I digress. Welcome to Holy Snokes, episode 18. Here on the PLD Projects Network. I'm your host, PLD, and back from Star Wars Celebration, which you didn't really have to go very far for, but back and ready to go on the channel, on the show, my sidekick, Matty Gunner. How are you doing, my friend?
You ever feel like, did you ever go to like summer camp when you were a kid?
Yeah, occasionally, yes. You
know that feeling where like you meet all those cool friends and then like they all go home and you know you're going to see them again. Right. But like it sucks because like you don't live anywhere close to each other and you meet that cute chick that like you have the summer fling with and you're like, I'm probably going to see her next year, but she might have a boyfriend by next year. So I feel like crap. Real life sucks and I miss my friends. That's how I feel. It was a great week and I put out quite a large thread that the thing I love about Celebration is the panels and stuff are cool. The announcements and the speculation is all cool. But the thing I love the most is walking the floor and watching Joseph Scrimshaw lose his shit over a small action figure of Lobot with a laptop. It's walking the floor with Ken Knapsack and hearing him talk about the UK's somewhat strange, prepackaged sandwich choices. It's like sitting outside with like Alden Diaz and Sean Room at 3:00 in the morning, just laughing and joking while Alden's passing around what's known as the talking wine. You know how they have the Mandos had the talking hammer, that talking kind of wine, stuff. Huh? We had the talking wine bottle. Yes. Wow. I gotta tell you, that kind of stuff that's what I love about Celebration.
And that's just giving me FOMO. I'm not going to lie. I had a lot of FOMO, not just for the news, but for seeing all those people. I think I've mentioned it before. I've been to Celebration once in my life. It was Orlando 2017. But I didn't know anybody there. It was I went with a friend who wasn't a Star Wars guy. I didn't even go really much to Celebration. He kind of went off into his own thing. I went and had a great time. Got to saw the panels, got to be with Star Wars people who love Star Wars. So it was with my people, but I didn't actually know anyone. Didn't get to hang out with anyone. This time I knew a lot of people there and wish I could have been. So I made a declaration that I was definitely going to the next one. Then they kind of made their announcement that they're going to be going to Japan, which, you know what? Awesome for the Japanese people. I think
we're turning Japanese, baby.
Absolutely. It'd be great. It did lessen my chances of going a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It's very expensive, but I do have 2 years to see if I can make it work out. So I was 100% before. I'm down to like 70%. Well, we'll see. Hopefully I can make it happen. And you and I can drink together watching.
The question is, can you keep up? Because I was struggling after a while. I was struggling.
I also am a little bit older than you guys, so definitely might have my guts will be challenged a little bit. My libations will be all over the place, but I think I can make it happen for a couple of days. If I go hard for a couple of days and then go.
Friday night I was here. Saturday night I was about here. Sunday night I was about here. And then when Monday morning came around, I mean, you guys, if you watched the live stream, you saw the state I was in Saturday morning. It was not a pretty one.
Not pretty at all. Trying to go to the panels after a night like that is a little tough. So I get it.
Speaking of panels, I really want to give a quick shout out to Alex and Molly for absolutely crushing it, and Ken and Joseph as well for crushing it with their panel. This is 2 years in a row now that they have packed out the room and had people lining up down the hallway. Anyone from Celebration, if you're watching this, give them their own fucking panel next year. because they crushed it, and Resistance broadcast crushed it as well. Triad of the Force crushed it. It was just awesome seeing like Star Wars creators not just being, relegated to, oh, they're just podcasters. There were loads of people coming in to like listen to what these people had to say, and it was awesome.
That's community for you. That's what this community we talk about is if you love Star Wars like that and you're dedicated to it, you watch a certain people, they become people you want to meet in real life and get to hang out with and have a beer with and get to see at panels at Celebration. So I'm very excited for you, very happy for you. We will get back to Celebration. We're going to pull a little bit of an audible. Maddie suggested this audible, and I don't disagree with it. We, instead of starting with the news, because there is obviously a shit ton of news that came out at Celebration, and while I did cover a lot of it during my informal live stream hangs, if you're listening on the audio podcast, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So I never put them to audio because they weren't really supposed to be a podcast. They're more just live hangs, and as we watch the Twitter feeds erupt with news and things of that nature, we did go over a lot of the news during those live streams. There might be a little bit of a crossover here, a little bit of overlap, so to speak. But I feel it's important that for the podcast proper, we actually go through the news that was released at Celebration or announced at Celebration. Because there's so much of it, we wanted to get to Mandalorian first, because I know some people come mostly for the review or the breakdown of the show itself. It does make sense to do that first, and I appreciate Maddie making that suggestion, because Celebration might go on for a bit. There's a lot of news that came out of Celebration. So we are going to tackle The Mandalorian, and we're going to tackle Chapter 23 of The Spies, the third season of the seventh episode, the penultimate episode, as Mark Ellis would say. And what an episode it was, my friend. What an episode it was. So let's get right to it. Of course, on Holy Snokes, if this is your first time here, she's sidetracked. If this is your first time here, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Let us know what you think about it. Leave comments, leave reviews. It's always helpful for the channel. We are on the march towards 500 subscribers on YouTube. It's a very modest goal, we know, but I hope we can get there. We are close. We were at 394, so almost to 400. That's close. It's getting there. We were the low 300s earlier in the year, so slow but sure.
Stay on target.
Stay on target. Exactly. Exactly. This is your first time here. Do all that stuff for us. Let us know what you like and what you want to see from us. We got a lot of great stuff on the channel. But beyond that, let's go into what we do on Holy Snokes as we review shows and showcases. We like to break it down into segments rather than going just beat by beat. We break it down to a couple segments first segment we call Hondo Watch 2023. And let's see what that is going to be for this week's episode of Mandalorian. Hondo Watch.
Who wants to see Hondo? Talk to me!
And what does that mean? Basically, we love Hondo Ohnaka here at Holy Snokes. He's kind of our patron saint. And we want to...
I never thought of him like that. Okay, yeah.
We
Hondo. I like it.
know. Does Hondo Ohnaka appear in this week's episode of Star Wars content and this week's episode of Mandalorian? And the answer...
This effort is no longer profitable!
Hondo Watch 2023 continues, unfortunately, not this week. When will it end? When will a great international nightmare come to a close? I don't know, but there's no room for Hondo this week, unfortunately.
I mean, we got the icing on the cake. I feel like Hondo would have. You ever see like the British scones? You have the scone and then you have the icing,
right?
And then you have the cherry. I feel like Hondo would have been the cherry.
That's true. That's a good point. And when it does we do have an episode this good, it does make it a little easier, easier to stomach, so to speak. But we will get there someday. I'm sure of it at some point, but not this week, my friends. So let's move on to the next segment. We call this one The Bounty.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
And the bounty is where we just kind of give you a brief description of the episode and what happened and what we're going to talk about later on without any real full details. So we start off on this one in Coruscant. We have Elia Kane obviously walking through the rainy back streets, as it were, and we get a probe droid, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's Moff Gideon in holo form. We discuss what's going on in the Republic. She mentions the Mandalorians and Navarro. Obviously, the pirates are part of his plan to a degree, as we discover. We kind of had ideas of that before the pirates were involved in the Imperial remnants. and they explained what's going on, who the Mandalorians were that flew in on Navarro to save the day from the pirates, that it was not New Republic people. Gideon lets her go, and Gideon then walks in to what we're calling the Shadow Council. Taking a little bit of the lore from previous, we have a Imperial Shadow Council where they basically update us on what the Empire is doing at this moment. What we've been kind of speculating on all season, what we've been worrying about all season. And we get to see a few people, some are unnamed Imperial warlords. I'm sure they'll get a name later on at some point. I'm sure Wikipedia will do some deep dive and we'll get something. But two specific names we need to mention, Brendel Hux and Gilad Pellaeon. Both are very famous in different circles. Brendel Hux, obviously the father of Hux that was in Force Awakens. This one played by Brian Gleason instead of Domhnall Gleeson. And of course, Pellaeon being a very important character in the Heir to the Empire series as Thrawn's right-hand man. And I got to talk about that casting. Xander Berkeley in a Star Wars universe as Gilad Pellaeon. I think that is most note-perfect castings I've seen. What a great piece of casting.
Yeah. Further speaking to that scene where Elia Kane's walking through Coruscant, I got massive Blade Runner vibes. Two, that music was awesome. It was like some kind of like new wavy dubstep. And I'm not a massive dubstep fan, but like when that was playing, I was like bopping my head. I was like, yeah, I like this. This is cool.
I guess. Go ahead.
Seeing Elia Kane walk through, I was just like, oh, she's up to no good. And Probe Droid scared the crap out of me. I saw a live in-person one at Celebration. A guy had one like on a stand that was just like floating through the crowd. They still scare the crap out of me. They have ever since I was a kid. So seeing Gideon come out of one, and how cool, like seeing the Shadow Council in person. Like obviously it's a revamped version of the Shadow Council. Obviously, like we have the one with Ray Sloan and everything. I feel like this is like an offshoot of that. It's just like wow. And then they mention the name. They bring up the not the Blue Man group, but the Blue Man himself.
The Blue Man himself is mentioned.
And they start questioning. They're like, well, Gideon starts questioning, and he's like, hey, where is he? He's supposed to be the big bad. Like, where is he? We hear about Operation Necromancer, which I think we all know what that is.
Project Necromancer, yeah, we definitely have an idea what that's supposed to be. I mean, everybody talked to me. I got a couple of, like, Will McLean sent me a gif of Project Necromancer, and it's just Palpatine giggling. His laughter.
Yeah. I mean, what is a necromancer? Someone who brings someone back from the dead.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Absolutely. Yeah. I also want to throw back in there, you mentioned the music. I think Joseph Shirley really kicked ass this week. It was really specifically an episode full of awesome score moments, deserved thematic moments. Really good work. But yeah, Project Necromancer was mentioned. Again, we're starting now, especially after the Newsum celebration, which we'll get into later on. This all seems like it's definitely heading in a certain direction. But yeah, it's tying together a lot of pieces. I think it's going to end up doing. I think it might end up doing to the sequel trilogy to a degree what the Clone Wars did to the prequel trilogy. Not that either trilogy needed fixing, like some people say. I don't want to ever throw it out there like that. But like giving a little support to it, giving a little more text context, expanding it out, it makes it feel a little different when you watch it later on, when things are, where the backstory that adds to the lore, adds to the overall feel of the story.
I have a question for you. And no one that I've asked has answered this yet, so I'm hoping you're going to be the first.
Oh boy!
Did you think that was Tantus that Gideon was in when you first saw the cave?
I considered that because we don't technically know where Tantus is on this in this canon. We know that there's a Mount Tantus. I was wondering that myself, to be honest with you. I kind of did wonder that.
In the Bad Batch panel, they said that it was the big mountain was Tantus.
Right. So, no, the mountain. No, that's what I'm saying. But we don't know what planet it's on.
Okay.
I didn't even consider. Like that's what I was considering. Okay. Like, well, I wonder if Mount Tantus is on Mandalore. What if that's the case? I mean, they look like different planets. Given we saw the outside of Mount Tantus, did it look that way? Bad Batch. Maybe that's a different side of the Mount Tantus. I don't know. It's probably not. But I did flicker through my old noggin. I am an old man. I do need to go to bed earlier than I ever used to, and I have to eat my soup and stuff and all that stuff. But so my mind isn't quite what it was. But so I'm in no way right. I don't think it's actually going to end up being that way. But it did knock around the old noggin a little bit.
I just like when he starts like walking through the halls, and then you see the cloning tanks. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Is Tech in one of those tanks?
Maybe. Could be. Absolutely.
Is he safe? Is he all right?
No, he's not. I'm sorry.
Actually,
Despite the pictures that
someone
you
gave me this at Celebration.
oh boy. Someone gave you something in Celebration.
He is safe. He is all right because he's here with me.
There you go. And there it is. All right, that was the end of the Shadow Council. A lot of name dropping, a lot of interesting development there, a lot of setup, I believe. They mentioned Pershing again still as well. His research was lost at the time. I have to go what that means necessarily. But most importantly, Gideon asked for help to deal with the Mandalorians, asking for more possibility of reinforcements, including the first name dropping of Praetorian Guards. Which I was like, oh, we're getting those. Oh my goodness, that's an interesting. That's, as Dave Filoni would say, how interesting.
And TIE interceptors as well. I was like, oh boy.
That's right, and bombers at that point, and bombers. So we go back to Navarro at that point. We see that the Bo has brought home the Axe of Woes faction of the Mandalorians. What a cool shot that was with the Imperial warship with the Great Mandalorian. The Mythosaur underneath painted on. That was nice. It was a nice touch.
I love Grief Karga actualing the droid.
Which is kind of funny. It's true. That droid didn't have a name yet. I wanted that droid to get a name. Like, he deserves a name. Like, he's Grief Karga's C-3PO. I don't think he has a name yet because I looked in Wikipedia. It's like Navarro Copper droid. Griefio. There you go. That's what we should call it there. Griefio. I like that. But what I want to know is how did that sector of Mandalorians paint that Mythosaur on that Imperial warship, because that's a fucking big job. It doesn't seem like they have a lot of big crew to do it. It's a big undertaking. I've only
ever allegedly tagged walls. So allegedly. So yeah, that must have been a pretty hefty job to do.
That don't take all the time that they have. When did they have time to do missions? I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, that's all right. They do land. The armor greets them. They kind of slowly start mingling. Grief Karga comes and takes Din back to his little mayoral office. And that's where we meet, not IG-11, but IG-12. And Star Wars goes full mecha at this point. And Grogu is given, it's not a robot anymore, he's not a droid. Grogu is given basically IG armor, basically. A little spot in there. It kind of looks like a little like Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where he just put the little guy in the middle of the
it's kind of like he's in a Megazord, his own little Megazord.
Yeah. And that led to some humorous moments. The yes and no button, which Grogu definitely decided to overuse to Din's, shall we say, parental annoyance. I've definitely been there. I kind of got actually triggered back to my days of having toddlers. But it was definitely a fun moment. It was cool. It was cool. That was cool to see. Definitely not something I expected. A great payback from the first couple episodes of the season when we were looking for IG-11. I didn't think it was going to go this way, but here we are. All right, so we go back. Of course, we get everybody. Mandalorians are back and together. They have some meetings. They're talking about going to Mandalore and reclaiming Mandalore. They're sending off a big fleet of them to see what's going on. They send down a bunch to figure out how the planet is, what they need to do to search for the Great Forge. And one of the most interesting things that happens right away is we find some survivors from Mandalore who are still on planet, led by Warlock from Top Gun Maverick and Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad, which I was surprised at. I
didn't pick the Skinny Pete, but I picked up on Charles Parnell, aka Warlock from Top Gun Maverick, and that was like one of those Michael Biehn level cameos where I'm like, fuck yeah,
I hope he's in there more. Because I love that. I loved him in Top Gun Maverick. I loved him. He's a great actor in a lot of different genre stuff. But yeah, I loved his character here too.
I hope his name is Warlock in this.
That would be great. I would love that. It'd be awesome. Wouldn't have to worry about a new name that know right away. But it was a kind of a cool thing. I like the surface people, like seeing there's almost like a third segment of Mandalorians, and we get some great lore there as well. They specifically ask about the Death Watch. And the armorer is like, no, the Death Watch is gone. It's splintered into a lot of different factions, implying, but never outright saying that the Children of the Watch were one of those factions. We still don't have the exact thing that went down, which is okay. But definitely Children of the Watch are kind of representative of that segment of Mandalorians. So we have the group meet, and the survivors tell them that they can actually bring the crew, Bo and crew, to the Great Forge. They know where it is. They don't have to search for it, which is nice. So part of them send their injured and weak back. The survivors who were kind of injured and weak send them back to the fleet, while Bo and Paz and crew and Din and everybody else, they go on towards the forge. We get to the forge. Forge area, I should say, and we think we're going to get another one of those big battles against a large ass creature comes out of the ground, but it's kind of one of those fooled you.
You know what that was, right?
Oh, the Mythosaur, yeah.
Yeah.
Mythosaur, yeah.
I thought originally that when it was like coming up, I thought that it was gonna, because at first I didn't see the ground shaking.
Right.
I thought that it would be Moff Gideon's fleet, or the
Right
fleet that attacked Bo's palace. I thought, oh crap, they're gonna have to they're on this little pirate barge, and they're gonna have to fight a bunch of ties. Like, oh man, this is good. This is gonna be bad. But then freaking Mythosaur comes out of the ground, and I can only think that Bo. I would have loved they didn't do it, but I would have loved for there to have been a moment where Bo looks at the armor and goes, "I told you."
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's crazy now?
So that's things like just was saying in Wikipedia, it didn't actually say it was a Mythosaur. So I mean, there's a chance that it wasn't a Mythosaur percent.
That looked like a Mythosaur to me.
It says turned out to be a large dragon-like monster. So perhaps it's only something that looks like a Mythosaur. That's why I didn't say it specifically. We didn't get any moment of recognition. We didn't say anything. We'll find out. But it's not they had time to talk about it anyway, because they went and they found this tunnel to hide in, this cave to hide in. I kind of feel like this is a reason. Here, let me go back a little bit. The reason why I would argue against it being a Mythosaur potentially is because I feel like there would have been when that actually appears in front of the Mandalorians, it's going to be a big moment where they actually have time to sit in it. They didn't have time to sit in it this time. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like that might be the case, but I'm not sure. We'll take it as it were until we see otherwise. The crew go down to this cave, and they basically find their way through. They find the forge, or what's left of it, as it were. And then we get what you were just about fearsome of. They get drawn into a trap. They get put into this building. They get locked up. And here is these Imperial jump troopers, as they call them, raining down, wearing Beskar armor, which definitely shows who broke Moff Gideon out. It wasn't Mandalorians at all. It was Imperial jump troopers with Beskar armor and jetpacks. Mm-hmm. And we have a big action sequence. Moff Gideon himself comes down. Din is captured, and they rain hellfire on the Mandalorians who are left. Bo uses the Darksaber to kind of break free from the back door, leading them away, while Paz Vizsla covers their entrance. And Paz basically is going to sacrifice himself for the Mandos against all the jump troopers, but he kills all the jump troopers. So it's like one of those moments like, okay, oh wow, okay. With the overheated gun and all, which is kind of cool, seeing that gun overheated like it was. It was like, oh,
yeah, and I've often said a couple times, like, when the hell is that gun ever gonna overheat?
Right.
And just seeing it like bright red, I was like, oh, he's fired.
Yeah, it's done. But just as you're like, and it's funny because you think because it was set up to be set up directly for Paz to be sacrificing himself. That's what the setup was. And then he didn't. You're kind of like at that point, like, oh, this isn't going the way I thought it was. And then we see the 3 Praetorian guards show up, and I forgot about those guys. I forgot to mention them in the first 5 minutes of the episode.
I didn't think we were going to see him now.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing too. Like, oh, we're getting them already, and they make pretty quick work of a pretty big Mandalorian overall. So, and rest in peace, Paz. You did end up sacrificing yourself overall. Praetorian guards look like they are as cool as I always wanted them to be from what we saw in The Last Jedi. So we have Din, who was captured, Bo leading Grogu and the rest of the Mandalorians out the back door. They are free and hidden. And that's where we end this show.
We should also mention that Gideon said take Din to the debriefing room. Are they going to mind flare him?
That's a good question. It is episode 12, so I guess they're going to take his helmet off. So I don't know what that's going to do to his psyche at this point.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. That's for next week's episode. But that is our bounty, our brief overlook. We're to get a little deep dive into the rest of the episode now, and we will do that via the rest of our segments. First segment after the bounty is what we call Mando of the Hour.
Let's just say they might recognize my face.
Who is your Mando of the hour, the best character of the week? Doesn't have to be a Mandalorian. Could be anybody involved in the episode. Could be the Enzarellian who was piloting the IG-12 unit who said, "Bad baby, no squeezy." It could be anybody. Who is your Mando of the hour?
Mine probably should have been the Anzellan, because I do love the Anzellans, but it's actually Grogu.
Okay.
It's actually Grogu, because that line started off and it did get a little annoying as hell. Him going, yes, 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 no, 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 no. But there was the moment when Axe and Paz were fighting, and Bo says neither side can step in. So who steps in? Grogu. IG-12 just separates the two of them, and he just says, no, no, no. And they're like, I mean, the kid says we can't fight, so we can't fight. And it was Bo saying neither side can interfere. So Grogu does it, because he's not on either side. He's of the clan of two. He's of the clan of the Mudhorn. So he can just be like, you know what? You two are acting like idiots. Stop it. And it also speaks to, like, he hasn't forgotten his Jedi training. I think there is a sense of, we see Grogu, he's a little kid, he's a little baby. But we need to remember he had a life before meeting Din. He was trained before meeting Din. So we expect him to be like Din. Thought, oh, he's too young to be piloted. No, you think he is.
Right.
That's just because we don't know. We still don't. We've had 3 seasons with the kid. We still don't know a lot about him.
Absolutely, you're not wrong. I would agree. He wasn't my choice of the week, but I definitely see why. And I think I want to extrapolate there. I almost thought we were going to get a cool moment. Almost a missed opportunity, but it is what it is. Where Din said, because Bo says, you trained him well. He's like, that's not my training. That must be from Skywalker. And here Bo-Katan goes, Skywalker.
Yeah.
Kind of like that would have been an interesting moment, I think, in a way. But you're right, exactly. I think this is a small moment, but it does serve to remind us that he is a Mandalorian. Grogu is definitely a Mandalorian foundling who's learning all about being a Mando, but he's always coming from that Jedi background. He will always have that Jedi background, which makes him the most unique Mandalorian since way back when, since Tar Vizsla back in the day, who had the first Darksaber. He is a Jedi Mandalorian, so to speak. And just because he left the training with Luke before, it doesn't mean he's completely abandoned all future of being a Jedi. In fact, I think I'm gonna speculate later on that we might see him in a certain film that takes place a little later on, so to speak, potentially. But we'll talk about that later on. I agree. I think Grogu is showing Jedi and Mandalorian traits. I think I'm here for it. I love that. That was one of my favorite parts of the episode during the journey from the landing point to the Great Forge. Good call. As for me, I toyed with giving it to Paz Vizsla, considering he sacrificed himself. I kind of wanted to give him his due. Give him his flowers, so to speak. But I couldn't overall because it was kind of one big moment in the episode. To me, I'm going to give it to Gideon. Really, I think Moff Gideon took his place back. We always been speculating for weeks. Where is he? What is he doing? What is he? Is it worth him coming back now after 2 episodes? But to come back the way he did, as powerfully as he did, with as much kick-assery in him as he did, I was blown away. I loved it from the Shadow Council. I love when he flew in it's funny. I watch a lot of films and TV with subtitles on. I just feel like sometimes it helps me make sure I focus on what's being said sometimes. And a lot of times you do that, things are given away. I know that I think it was Bad Batch, the season finale of Bad Batch, he gave away that Saw Gerrera was in the Stormtrooper helmet. It said Saw says this or whatever. So before they unmasked him, I was like, okay. In this case, it didn't this week, even though I knew it, but I knew it this one even more than the last week. It did something like Dark Mando. It said something like Dark Mandalorian or Dark whatever. It said something different. It didn't say Moff Gideon when he comes down to the black suit of armor, and then he takes his helmet off and reveals that he's Gideon. So I thought that was kind of funny, just a little aside. But when he does come over and take that helmet off and starts like just basically going to town on them and saying that everything's going the way he wants it to go and how much he is Mandalore. He is the leader of Mandalore, the future of Mandalore. He has his own Mandalorian get up now. He wants the Darksaber back. That that was phenomenal to me. I'm intimidated. I love him as a baddie. I'm not sure how much longer he'll be a baddie. He might be deposed next episode so that we can get on to the Blue Man eventually. But I kind of hope he doesn't. I kind of hope that he takes a step back and maybe there's a win there. Maybe he gets away or does something else. And I hope we see more of him because I think there's a lot more untapped that we could get from him. So I'm hoping that's so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird choice, but a good one. I don't know why you pick him for Man of the Hour since what he did. Terrible. But yeah, we know that his character, he's obsessed with Mandalorian culture. He's not a Mandalorian, but he wishes he was one.
Mhm.
So for him to say the line "Mandalore lives on through me," that's kind of like the Christ complex of someone like him being like, "Hey, you're not going to accept me as one of you? Fine, I'll take it myself."
Right? Absolutely.
And
I
he's
love
already
it.
starting to play for that leadership role with the Shadow Council
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's the one that stands in the middle that says "Long live the Empire," and then they all repeat him.
Yep. I almost feel like it's not going to be any of the good guys, so to speak, that take him down. It's going to be Thrawn himself who has to take him down.
We'll get there.
And I think that's going to happen. I'm going to go to Force Vision there a little bit early, I guess. But yeah, that's what I kind of think. That's what I'm kind of thinking myself. But all right, we'll go on to our next line, which actually made a lot more sense after the last episode. We got a little reminder of this after the last episode. But
I have spoken.
the Ugnaughts returned last week, of course. I have spoken. This is our favorite line of dialogue from the week. Maddie, I will let you start. What is your favorite line of dialogue this week?
Mine is a little bit of a long one, but it hit really hard. It was the where Din says, "To be honest, it means nothing to me or my people, nor the station or bloodline. What means more to me is honor and loyalty and character. These are the reasons I serve you, Lady Kryze. Your song is not yet written, and I will serve you until it is."
Yeah,
That just says to me that it's again, now that I'm starting to watch more Game of Thrones, it's the Jon Snow. It's
Mhm.
he may end up holding the dark saber again, but he doesn't care if he doesn't. Like he doesn't want to be king. He just wants to do right by those who have done right by him. And Bo-Katan has done right by him many times, so he is following her until the end.
I don't think you are wrong. In fact, I'm going to save my comments on that until Force Vision. I'm going to extrapolate a little later on that. To be honest with you, I have something to talk about with that. But I do like that. That line specifically is one I mentioned as well. I went with a different one. I went with a much easier, much simpler one. Some might call it an annoying line. My line: yes, 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 yes. The Daniel Bryan moment, as it were.
Also, the Diego Sanchez moment. That is that
That's
I believe Daniel Bryan stole that from the UFC fighter Diego Sanchez from back in the day. But yeah.
hearing
That annoyed the crap out of me at first, but then like what I went through a second watch just before the show. I was like, okay, actually, that is kind of funny.
It's the way it's the humor I like in terms of like sometimes something's funny, it gets not funny, but if you keep pushing through, at some point it becomes funny again. And I think it manages it quite well. It's just a baby. Especially if you're a father, you've been through this, and it's like you're watching this whole thing. No, yes, no, yes, 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 yes. I loved that. Thought it was funny. It was a great moment of levity in the in a time where an episode where we don't get a whole lot of it. So that was definitely my line. So, all right, we'll move on to our next segment. There, we call this one "Put That in Your Holocron and Snoke It."
Do you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
If you got them, for me, I'm going to start this one off if you don't mind. What I want to see more of is the Shadow Council. We got the introduction of the Shadow Council. Give me all of what's going on there. Let me know what Brendel Hux is doing besides Crouching Necromancer. Where is he? What is he working on? Give me more of Pelion. Where is he? What's he working on? Who are these warlords? Are they important? Do we know who these people are? Have we met them before? Where's Ray Sloan during all of this? That's what a question brought up for a bunch of people from the Aftermath books. Is that a purposeful? Is there a reason why she wasn't there? Was it something that the crew have forgotten because she's a book character? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say anything either way. I know Dave Filoni knows Star Wars very well, lore-wise. There's a chance that she got overlooked because they just didn't think about it, considering how it's been a long time since we've seen her. She was in the books a while ago. I don't know, but either way, I want to know more about the Shadow Council. Hopefully we get something from that, either in the books, the movie, a TV episode, something where we get to see more of what's going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah, mine's the same. It's very much like, mostly I want to know where Sloane is at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously we know what happens to Gallus Rax,
Mm.
but she's also a Grand Admiral at this point. So
unless she was taken out by someone, that's a story we haven't seen yet. She could have been taken out behind the scenes at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing. She's such a beloved character for some reason. Like, I don't think they would take her out like off screen. I'm wondering, like, when
considering she's never had an on-screen appearance, it wouldn't be shocking to me. If she's a great character in the books, maybe they keep her story to the books potentially.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they just keep the Shadow Council to what it is. I just like the thought of there being someone that could like step in and be like, you want Thrawn as your leader? Like, where's he been? I've been here the whole time. He's been off in the unknown regions. Where the hell, someone that could like step to him and be like, hey, you're not the only one that could lead this thing.
Or let's go the other route. Is she with Thrawn?
Maybe
she found Thrawn and is serving as.
Didn't she go to the unknown regions with it as well?
Not with the Empire. The Imperials after Aftermath went to the unknown regions. Maybe she found Thrawn out there. Maybe she's serving him out there or with him to a degree. Maybe she is. It'd be kind of weird because we have Pelion here. We have Pelion here, but maybe she is going to be the actual Pelion characters and like Thrawn's number one throughout when he actually comes back. Pelion will serve as the person here, and she'll be the one who came with him from the Grand Council. So maybe a Pelion level character as well. Potentially, I don't know. It could be good. There's a lot of different speculation we can go with. And it could. I don't want to speculate too much irresponsible because we might never see Ray Sloane. She might be just relegated to books, and if that's the case, it's unfortunate. I'm not going to lie, it's unfortunate. I'd like to see her brought into the live action or into the even animated or live action because she is a good character from the book series. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's not going to ruin anything for me either. I do want some kind of explanation either way, whether it's a book later on or it's a comic book later on. Until we find out what happened to her and where she is during this time frame, where it seems like she would be present for. But again, that is her answer though. She did leave with a lot of them, but then Hawk's left too, so she's back too. So I don't know. I just want to know what's going on with her. Where is she? Maybe she's still in the unknown region with Thrawn until he comes back. A lot of different possibilities. But,
yeah. Okay.
All right, we move it on to our next segment. We call this one.
You got a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Seen a lot of action. Your favorite action segments of the week. Matty, I will turn it back to you. What was your favorite action moment of the week?
My one is kind of a double-edged sword because it came back to bite him on the ass. It's every time. It's a small moment, but Din does it at least once a season. It's the run headlong into gunfire until you start knocking shit over. He does like the John Wick Ford, like pull up the jack. What they do when they pull up the jacket, he just kind of like puts his arm. I don't know why he puts his arm over his face when he's wearing a Beskar helmet, but he like puts his arm over his face and then just like runs headlong in. Obviously, when Paz started doing it, he was just mowing dudes down, but Din was just like running forward until he hit something, and then he ends up the other side of a locked door, and it's just kind of like, you idiot.
I think Din wants to be positive to a degree sometimes.
Don't we all?
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Other than being
dead. Yeah, and that's my action bit of the because obviously it was positive sacrifice. That whole sequence when he closed the door and turned that gun on to everybody, and the gun overheats, and he started slamming the gun, and they're shooting him, and he's not going down. He's like fighting his way through, and then the Praetorian guards come. The whole angle. What a great piece of action. That I'll combine that with the only other piece of action to me that really was under consideration for me was that first moment when the Mandalorians are by the Great Forge and then the Imperial jump troopers come into play. And also we see them in the background, kind of like, and Bo has that, those aren't Mandalorians line of dialogue. I was like, oh shit, this is going to go down now. We're getting into it. But yeah, Path of Sacrifice is my favorite bit of the week though. Very powerful moment. So
it also lends to the character arc of Paz because the first episode of this season, I was like, I hate this guy. This guy is such a snidey little prick,
Mm-hmm.
or snidey big prick.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, damn, that dude was all right. I'm gonna miss that guy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because he turned it around a little bit. It's a great arc. That's what she always realized, though. Star Wars always going to rip our heart out. So whenever somebody has a great character arc and a great moment of redemption, it means they're going to die soon.
The one thing I wish we got is when he said, "This is the way," and close the door down. I know it would have like been against his character to remove the helmet. And shout out to Tate Fletcher, because Tate is the man. Like I've watched Tate for years, ever since like he used to appear on I know before he became the not great person he is now. Ever since Tate used to appear on Rogan's podcast back in the day, and like talk about fighting and stuff.
Right.
But what I would have loved is if he pulled the helmet off, and it was Favreau. And we just saw Favreau holding the gun, just like. Like they even could have deep faked it, like Favreau's head on the Tate's body.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been sweet.
Funny. That would have been a funny moment in a way. I don't know. It would have been too funny though to take us out of the sequence. Maybe see if Johnny Fav's there, but it might be worth a shot. I wouldn't mind seeing it to give it a shot. So
Yeah,
I love it. All right. All right. Let's move on then to our next segment. This is what we call.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
Laugh it up, fuzzball. Our favorite comedic moments of the week. There wasn't a whole lot of comedy again, but there's only one. It's got to be Grogu in the IG-12. Let's be honest with you. The whole sequence was pretty funny, from the first no to the first yes to the squeezing of the Jogan fruit to the on the eating of whatever it was he was eating. It's toddlers at their wildest. Loved it. I loved it so much. This was great way to add a little bit of levity.
And there was like moments where like Din was like, "This isn't gonna work for me. This isn't working for me." And like when he went to pull Grogu out of IG-12, and Grogu just like pushes him away using the droid's arm. He's like, "Hell no! Like this is my toy. You ain't taking this away from me. You took away my tiny metal ball. You took away my eggs that I was eating. You took away the spiders that I tried to eat. You are not taking this toy away from me. This is mine."
I love it. I love it so much. All right, we got it. That was a pretty easy one. This one is the other easy segment we have called Parsecs.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
That's because we rate this on an episode on a scale of 1 to 11, because we always turn up to 11 here on PLD Projects. So out of 11 parsecs, what do you think this episode ranks?
I'm going to go with 10.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to go with 10 because they can only go up from here. So I don't want this to be like they the only way they can go is up from here. They're 100. I have the full confidence now that they are going to stick the landing like hell next week. So I am reserving the top marks for what I believe will be the best episode.
Right.
If it doesn't stick the landing, then I will upgrade this. But as a moment, it is a provisional 10.
Fair enough. I'm going to give this a 10.5. I loved everything about it. I'm not going to lie. It was near perfect. I don't even know if there's anything that I could say that knocked it down from being imperfect, except for the fact that it was a part 1 out of 2. So I didn't get the culmination, as it were, for the episode. We get to continue on to the finale. Otherwise, though, it's perfectly set up. It's got everything I want. It's bringing together old school lore, new school lore, some humor, some powerful character moments, some great action beats, setting up everything else. And I don't know what you could say was wrong with the episode, if anything. So to me, spot on, 10.5. All right, our last segment, before I do any catch up and then go into our news of the week, we call this one the Force Vision.
Premonitions?
Premonitions, Force Visions. We can take something from this episode and speculate on where is it going from here. What are we going to see either next week or somewhere down the line, especially as this gets more interconnected with the overall Star Wars universe. Matty, let's start with you. What do you see in the future? What is the Force telling you?
I'm getting very good at being able to smell a rat. I was able to with Sid.
Okay.
and I think I know who the damn dirty rat is here. It's way too easy for them to make us think it's the armorer. We've been sus of her since the beginning. She was the one to fly off. If you notice, like they would hold shots on her for a bit longer, like when Bo would walk past her and like look at her and like just give her like a sideward glance. She was the one that flew the injured Mandalorians back to the fleet. But you know what? Axe Wolves is a damn dirty, filthy rat. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give you. This is where the tinfoil hat gets flipped to the back.
Let's do it.
And I'm gonna explain why this is. Look at how that man scurried off on the boat when Paz was kicking his ass. Only shit weasels scurry across the floor like that.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely not
That
wrong.
was a full-on shit weasel scurry. And also, there was I hate this. The only way Gideon would have known that Bo-Katan had the Darksaber back is if someone told him. The armorer never saw her light it up. But who was there when she lit it up? Axe. Who was there when he got his ass kicked by Bo-Katan? Axe. So who was the one that probably sprung Gideon? Axe. Who was the one that suggested he fly back to the fleet? Axe. He ain't flying back to the fleet. He's flying away to save his own skin.
Very intriguing, my friend.
That son of a bitch, he's the rat. He is the rat, and he's going to fly down thinking that Gideon is going to be like his savior. Gideon's going to be like, he's going to let Gideon let him rule Mandalore. Nah, bro, you're about to die in the next episode.
So you think that Axe is basically being Pre-Vizsla to Moff Gideon's Count Dooku, so to speak?
Yep.
I see that. It's an interesting call. I mean, the episode was called The Spies. And obviously L.A. Kane was one spy. I've seen a lot of speculation. The armor is a good guess. I get what people are saying out there. Sometimes Star Wars likes to be a little obvious. I would say Sid was a little easy to prepare Bad Batch, considering, obviously, I thought the darker route would have been to go with Fee in Bad Batch. But you're not wrong, is that they are definitely laying the groundwork for that, because we are all sus of the armor, and it will be interesting to see a tweak, so to speak. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the armor either, though. Sometimes they'd like to go the direct route. Axe being it, though, is a good choice. That was a good choice in many different ways. The only reason I would push it back on the armor a little bit, is that right now, Bo-Katan has the Darksaber. The armor has always been like the leader of that sect, even to the point where she's like, take off your helmet. Do you respect my station? Do you respect my station? So now all of a sudden Bo comes back in with the Darksaber. Can armor handle being second fiddle now?
Or was the armor trying to prepare Bo for her leadership role?
Maybe.
Was she trying to be like, hey, do you respect my station? Do you respect station?
Right.
She was just using her station as an example, to where she's now, do you respect station? You are the leader. Do you respect this responsibility as the leader of all of the Mandalorians? Plus, I think Koska might be in on it as well.
Well, that was what I was actually, I'll only interrupt you here. I was actually going to bring it up, maybe because you said Axe. I said it could be Koska. Now it could be Koska and Axe together, because Koska had some moments. Koska had some moments as well where she one of the big ones was last week's episode where they take the Mon Calamari guy, and he's like, oh, I thought Mandalorian had honor, and she's like, we do, kid.
Only takes a few credits.
So obviously she could definitely either also be on the take or by herself. Even she could not agree with Bo taking back over either. So absolutely, Koska Reeves could be our rat as well. It could be a couple different rats. You're just going to say one of them is definitely a rat, though. We're going to find out which one.
I wonder if it's a Bonnie and Clyde thing. Maybe.
Could be.
Because there was that moment when Paz knocked Axe down. She looked at him like, "You gonna let him do that to you?
Yeah,
in front of me."
Absolutely. So definitely a possibility, my friend.
What's your Force vision, bud?
My Force vision is, you mentioned it earlier, and I kind of want to go a little bit further with that. I think we are absolutely going to get a Jon Snow moment in this, and I think that Din is going to get the Darksaber back. some people have complained that, this has been Bo's season and been a little bit sidelined. I think that's all been kind of a setup, because it's been a setup for Bo to take her rightful place. Now, Bo at this point is an old soul character. She's been around for a while. That's kind of one of the running jokes that you kind of we ignore in Star Wars, is that she looks damn good considering she was alive during the Clone Wars. That she was the age she was during the Clone Wars, and she looks like she really hasn't even aged after 20, 30 years, 20 some odd years or whatever. I feel Bo is going to culminate at some point. She's going to reunite Mandalorians. I think we're going to take Mandalore. I think Bo is going to be the one in charge. And I think at some point after that, in the near future after that, perhaps during the Mando movie, maybe before the Mando movie. That's the funny thing. Side question a little bit. We're calling it the Mando movie because it's the Mandoverse movie. It might not have to do with the Mandalorians at all. The Mandalorians might just be a part of it. It's hard to know exactly how much it's going to culminate.
I mean, they're going to be in it, so for pod's sake, we'll call it the Mando movie till we know otherwise.
Absolutely. Otherwise, I just don't want to get onto the hype train. That's like the Mandalorians are about the Mandalorian in that arc. This might be a different arc. The Thrawn arc's a little different. The Heir of the Empire part. Yeah. So, but somewhere between now and then, I think there's going to be some kind of danger. I think Thrawn might come to take her out. I think Bo is going to have to sacrifice herself, and Bo's going to have to sacrifice herself. That's her culmination of her entire arc, because she's always been so hard on herself. She's lost. She lost in Death Watch. She came. She lost her way. She tried. She got the Darksaber. She took Mandalore. We found out this episode the piece that she surrendered. That's something we didn't actually talk about much in our.
Maybe that's her redemption, is sacrificing herself for her people after she gave up on them.
That's what I'm saying, because she said that she surrendered the Darksaber to Moff Gideon, and that's what happened. And they all looked at her like, "You fucking what?" Because the whole thing, Warlock was like, "We never surrendered." Well, actually, we did. I did. And she's she's felt that guilt throughout. So now she's going to come back. She's taking the Darksaber. She's reunited her people. She's going to take Mandalore. She's going to take the whole thing back into place. But then the only thing that's going to do it, she's going to have that choice again. And no, I'm not surrendering. And she'll give up her life, and Din will have to take up the Darksaber after her. We'll probably, somebody will beat her. Maybe it's Gideon. Somebody will beat her, and then Din will have to beat him. And Din will be like, you know what? Because I've almost fallen. I don't want to say fallen in love. I don't want to ship Din and Bo or whatever. They actually have a great respect between each other.
It's right there. It's so obvious thing. It's right there.
It is. I don't want to push it and say that that's the exact reason, but I'm saying it comes to the point where they obviously have gotten very close, and he had this whole speech to her. I am there for you. I will do. So in her honor, he'll be like, you know what? She can't unite them. I'm going to step up and unite them at this point, or keep them together, so to speak. And that's when Din takes the Darksaber, and that's when this whole narrative of this is Din's being sidelined. No, this is all part of Din's journey. Din never wanted to be a Mandalorian leader. He never wanted to lead these people. He needs something to push him to want to do it. And watching Bo doing that thing, and losing Bo is that thing.
I like that. I'm going to end on this. I have an honorary mention one.
Okay.
I've been adamant. If anyone's watched this show, I've been adamant that we're not going to see Thrawn for a while. I'm changing my mind.
Oh, okay.
I think it might be in a post credits. But here's what I'm thinking: Shadow Council meeting. Gideon's running with his tail between his legs. He loses again. I don't think he's going to die or anything, but I think the Mandalorians are going to beat him again. Obviously, there's a season 4 of Mandalorian. They're probably going to need him to be the villain of season 4.
Right.
I think Gideon runs away. Shadow Council meeting. They're having it. Thrawn appears in the Shadow Council meeting to reprimand Gideon for failing. Be like, you talked all this shit. I'm here now. You wanted to be the leader. Tough. You fucked up. I'm here. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I like that. I kind of think it exactly might be that post-credit scene. That'd be a great post-credit scene to have. I would go on one step further. He retreats and he goes back to the council. I need even more reinforcements. The Mandalorians have taken Mandalore back, and all of a sudden, that's when Thrawn, he's trying to guide them together. Then Thrawn appears and said, "You've had your chance. Now it's my turn."
What I would love is for Thrawn to appear in person. Maybe Moff gets the Darksaber back somehow. And I've seen a lot of people saying that this will make Thrawn OP, overpowered, but that's kind of what you need for Thrawn to be the big bad of the movie. Moff takes the Darksaber back, retreats, Thrawn kills him with the Darksaber. And it's like, you fucked up too many times. I'm taking this. We know Thrawn loves art. We know he loves to, and this is something that Joseph Scribb. Shout out to Joseph because like he picked up on this, and I never thought of this. Thrawn collects culture and then uses it to destroy the very people that culture comes from. I never, for some reason, that never clicked in my brain. The thought of Thrawn holding the Darksaber and destroying the Mandalorians with it himself. Ugh.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think that's exactly the way we're going to go. I'm excited about that idea potentially, and that would be. Yeah, I like that as a post-credit sequence. I think we're going to. I think we're almost going to see that. I want to see it at this point,
especially because now we know that Lars is definitely playing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, the announcement's been made. That's my question too. My little sub question is now we know Sabine's been officially announced, or Rebels been officially announced. Does Sabine make an appearance this week now, or is that going to be later on? Potentially. I don't want to I'm not putting stock in it at all, but it's an idea. It's an idea. So all right. Is there anything else from this episode we need to touch base on? I think we kind of covered it.
And I think we just segued nicely into our celebration discussion.
All right, let's get into it. And that's the end of the Mandalorian discussion. Thanks for sticking around. If you want to, I know you like our reviews. That's great. But this is where we're going to go into the news that was announced at Celebration. We do have a lot of it to cover. I'm going to try to do it in as orderly a fashion as possible. Yep. I'm just going to touch base on basically announced projects, some interviews we saw, and what happened at Celebration. And then at the end, after the tail end of that, maybe we'll let you, Matty, give a discussion on your overall experience before we sign off. Unless you have the floor, as it were, your day-to-day with such venerable Jedi masters such as Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw and Alex and Molly Damon and the whole crew over the Resistance broadcast. John Hoey, loved them as well.
What I'll get to it, but John Hoey, what a fucking legend. I loved that man before this weekend. Now he's the man. But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. As opposed to myself, who was on CouchCon here with the Scoundrels Inc., for example. I want to give them a shout out. They were very good at their coverage this past weekend as well. I got to hang out with them like in their chats, and Sean Sullivan came into my chats and stuff. They gave us some shout outs. I want to give them the same.
And they shout out Morna as well. Sean is great for. A lot of people will say openly that they support everything you do. Sean especially is genuinely about that. I've posted about Morna so much over the weekend, and he has been the first one to retweet things and post about them and say, and like on Scoundrel, like they got no business talking about a hardcore band on a Star Wars podcast, but you know that just goes to the credit of those guys that they may be scoundrels, but like the original Scoundrel Han Solo, they've both got hearts of gold. Whether they want
kind of scum.
Whether they want you to admit it, those are good boys.
Yeah, Sean Sullivan, Brandon Hanna, Frank Janish, and now the relegated to special guest star Kevin Smith. Love all four of them, and we're good friends with that podcast as well. I like the fact that we're developing this like family of Star Wars podcasts. Some are much bigger than ours. We're a smaller one, but I still feel like we're the same. We're also in that same family of positivity, and I love those boys. I love those and the women involved as well. So. But let's get into Celebration news. The first big panel took place, obviously, was the Lucasfilm Studio Showcase. And one of the things I would love, even though I don't know why this is exclusive footage, but it was. I wish it popped out there. I guess it opened up to a sizzle reel of the franchise set to a voiceover by Nemec in Andor. That's something I heard was really cool. I'd love to see. There's nothing there. I don't think there's new footage there. Give it to us. Give me that kind of stuff. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. But yeah, the first thing we mentioned, of course, was Andor season 2. Obviously, we knew that was coming. We learned that it was wrapping in August and was returning in the late summer of 2024. Some footage was shown. Obviously, a trailer was shown that we did not get. Exclusive trailer for Andor season 2, showcasing a couple different things. Diego Luna with a different hairstyle, I guess, and Mon Mothma was in there. Surprisingly enough, no mention or footage of Alan Tudyk as K2SO, who's supposed to be in this season, but I haven't heard a damn thing about it, unfortunately. Yeah. So
there was also, I have the reason why there was no footage of B2 Emo. I know why there wasn't.
Is he okay?
I accidentally kept him from being enclosed in the footage.
Of course, now you have from what I've heard, there is actually an order of protection served against you and a stay away order served.
The guy, I will say, the guy did look at me as if to say, like, dude, be careful, because as we were like walking to the Star Wars Explained panel, and then the B2 just comes like the other way. I span on my heels so quick.
That's awesome.
But that is the reason there was no B2 footage, because I was
fair enough.
half hugging, half humping him.
Fair enough. We each have our own little not gonna no king shaming here. Next, a bit of segment we got from Lucasfilm Studio Showcase was from the Acolyte. For Light and Life was the frame of mind. I got a couple pieces of news. Got Jonas, of course, Suotamo returning to Star Wars as a different Wookiee, not Chewbacca this time, but a Jedi Master, a Wookiee Jedi Master named Kel Naka. Got a couple of different bits and pieces. 4 episodes have been completed.
To Jonas real quick. He came out on the Celebration live stage. The crowd went nuts.
Awesome.
And he came out. You know how they do the running of the hoods and now the Narkina prison runners?
Yep.
He had like a bunch of people dressed as Wookiees behind him. And it was the coolest. Like, we saw them walking through the show floor. That was the coolest thing to see. Jonas leading an army of Wookiees, all following behind him, single file. That was so sick. But yeah, I'm glad that like there's love for Jonas out there, because that dude seems like the nicest guy.
Oh, he seems like he's a great ambassador for Star Wars as well. He just loves the brand, loves just without hesitation, without any like ulterior motive, just absolutely loves being a part of Star Wars. And he lets you know it and lets you feel it. It's contagious, his excitement, his energy. But seeing him come back in a High Republic era film or series, rather, 4 episodes have been completed. Kathleen Kennedy was floored by the results. I guess the pitch was Frozen meeting Kill Bill, which of course is very difficult for me to kind of grasp my head around, to be honest with you. But I'm here for it.
I thought so as well until Alex Damon explained this to me.
Okay.
Because I have not seen Frozen. So I was very like, how the hell does this work? Frozen is about someone coming into their powers, learning to understand their powers and the responsibility that comes with those powers. And the theme of the Acolyte is it's not about good or evil. It's who has the power and how they use it. It's very much with great power comes great responsibility. It's not about good or evil. It's about who has the power.
Okay. That's fair.
So that made sense. And then you've obviously got the martial arts with Kill Bill, which, by the way, I saw the footage.
Oh, you did?
Wow.
Yeah, that could, huh?
How they've mixed the use of the Force with martial arts. I went from 6 to midnight, nearly burst through my damn trousers.
Did you seek out the leaked footage, or did you actually get a good shot?
I seeked out. Someone at the bar showed me the leaked footage, but
gotcha.
Like I didn't see the full HD, but like it was enough. It was enough for me to be like, whoa.
No, and yeah, I would not blame you for it. It's something I don't do. I decided not to watch leaked footage. I always want to watch. I get it. I mean, trust me, I'm tempted.
I gave it. I haven't seen I haven't seen the Ahsoka stuff. I haven't seen the Skeleton Crew stuff. That was the one where I heard so much about it. I was like, okay, I need to see this.
I will say, from people I've talked to, this was the win. This is the most, like, this was the biggest win of the panel. Like, of the footage that was shown, like, people looking forward to this as something very special. I'm excited about it. We also got Lee Jung-jae was playing a Jedi Master. Daphne Keane was playing an alien and used a lightsaber. These are all little bits and pieces that we learned from the panel and from interviews. Production is expected to wrap in May of this year and will air in 2024. I assume it's going to be a early 2024 show. That's my own guess at this point.
That'd be.
The trailer shown, this is all I heard, was it was dark tone like Andor. There were plenty of aliens, and then there was a jaw-dropping martial arts force fight between Amanda Carrie Ann Moss.
Carrie Ann Moss, as the character that she looks to be, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil anything.
Right.
But oh my god, how have she not been in Star Wars yet until now?
It boggles the mind. Quite frankly, she does seem to fit. Even like just when I remember hearing the news that she was going to be in the show, I was kind of like, well, that makes sense. Now I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but it makes sense.
Yeah. The only thing that could top that for me is if I get my dream casting of Keanu as Revan.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, we got the next segment. After that was the Mandalorian segment. Not much there from what I gathered. They said that the final episodes were both directed by Rick Fumiyama, and we've seen one of those episodes, and the next week is coming, the same director, and that the finale was going to tie everything in that has happened from Mando season 1 and 2 and Book of Boba Fett so far. It's going to tie it all together, which almost led me to think that we might get a Boba appearance in this episode.
Maybe
or perhaps something Ahsoka or Luke. I don't know. They mentioned Mando and Boba specifically, so it'll be interesting to see what they exactly mean by tying it all together. Considering we're about to be at the top of the roller coaster and head on down as we go into Ahsoka and everything else potentially. Beyond that, they showed 7 minutes of this episode, and then they later on that night showed this episode to Celebration people, folks. And I want to say I want to celebrate the fans from Celebration who did not spoil this episode because it was out for several days, and I did not hear anything from anybody on social media.
When we were sitting around at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I hadn't seen the footage. So yeah, shout out to everyone who didn't spoil it. I specifically want to shout out Alden Diaz because they started to talk about it, but Alden was like, "Hey, shut up! He hasn't seen it yet." Stum. Right. And I just want to thank everyone who was like, who respected that, didn't say anything, and that's why I prefer talking, not just on here with you. I prefer talking about Star Wars in person with people because the online community is not a reflection of the actual Star Wars community.
Absolutely,
it's really not. And you would talk about it to people. It wasn't just that group. I would talk to people about it, and they would say, "Did you see the footage?" And I would say, no, I didn't get into the panel. I didn't watch the episode. They'd be like, "Okay, you're going to love it." John Hoey, I didn't see it. He was like, I'm not going to say anything, but it's one of the top 3 episodes in the entire series. And he left it at that. So everyone was super respectful all weekend. No one spoiled it. I thought that was awesome.
And to be fair, I gotta say, like, I agree with you generally about the in-person versus social media, but even on social media, nobody spoiled it. Like, I think if you wanted to know, you could find it. Like, there's obviously Star Wars leaks and Reddit and stuff like that. You could I think if you searched it out, you could find it. If you wanted to know that badly, you could find it, but it wasn't out there to be accidentally spoiled. It wasn't out there all over the place. Like, it was kind of just. So I want to give credit to where credit's due. Nothing was really leaked, so good for them, good for us.
Sometimes the fandom, it just comes together, and it's just like, why can't we do this all the time?
Right, absolutely. Next segment we wanted to talk about was Skeleton Crew. We got the announcer on the directors, which was John Watts, David Lowery, the Daniels, Jake Schreier, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Lee Isaac Chung. Obviously, we had broken the news. Well, we didn't break it. We reported on. The news had been leaked a little bit about David Lowery previously, the Daniels and Jake Schreier. I don't believe it had leaked about Bryce Dallas Howard and Lee Isaac Chung. Yeah. Bryce Dallas Howard does not make is not surprising at all. She's become a stalwart standout there. She's going to be
give her a movie already.
It really should.
Give her and Rick. Give them movies. After these 3, those should be the next 2 up.
We got Jude Law on stage. We know that Jude Law. I've heard both things. Some people said he's a Jedi, and some people have said he's just Force sensitive. I don't know if it was actually clear on the footage or unclear anything. I know he uses the Force at one point during footage.
I'm kind of hoping he does the with the magnets, like we saw in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Which would be fun. He's like a fake Jedi.
He's just kind of like a con man because we've obviously seen, spoiler alert. Actually, no, I'm not going to spoil it. We saw a certain someone. I know who it is now. From the other show that makes an appearance in Skeleton Crew as one of the bad guys. I know who it is now.
Yes.
I'm okay with knowing.
Yep.
I wonder if he's a little bit of a con artist.
Could be. I mean,
he's handsome enough to con anyone. Let's be fair. Jude Law could probably sell porn to a blind man if you wanted to.
That's fair. But of course, there's always been the rumor, or I would say rumor. This has been the fan desire, fans trying to project out there that was Lord Santeca. There's never been anything from Lucasfilm to say that. So I'm kind of like, oh, that'd be cool if. And it's never been said that Lord. That's the thing. It's never been said that he's Force sensitive. But all we know from his history is he worked for the Church of the Force, and he went with Luke Skywalker on all these journeys to discover Force artifacts and different Jedi temples and everything. So it makes sense that he would be Force sensitive. Like that's why Luke would take him along. Maybe he's not Force sensitive. Like he's not Jedi level Force sensitive, but he is interested in it. And he can touch the Force, and so it looks like, yeah, I could use you for your, not use you, but I can use your talents as far as knowledge goes. And if you do go along the Force, that's great, and that would show why he's interested in it to a degree as well. So that's always potentially out there. I don't know. Again, it's not going to ruin it if it's not. I mean, I almost feel like it's not going to be, because the fans have wanted it for trying to project it for so long, trying to make it like will it to be so. I kind of feel like this has been a fan thing for a long time, and that he's been something different forever. But who knows? Who knows?
I saw a theory about him playing the Jedi. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, another Jedi." Guess what, guys? If Order 66 wiped out 99% of the Jedi, there's still about 100 left.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if it was 95, even further. Think about all the handful of Jedi. We've only had a handful of Jedi survive still so far. So there's more. There might be more. I'm okay with that. And plus, at this point, depending on how young they play Jude Law, this is way after. There's still people being born who are Force sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I question whether is he Jedi or is he just Force sensitive? He just could be someone who grew up with the Force, never got really any training. He's not a Jedi. He's just a Force sensitive. He's just a Force user.
Or he's a clone that uses magnets.
There's probably, it could be, exactly. But there's 1,000. I mean, there might only be 100 some odd Jedi left after Order 66. But I bet there's a bunch of Force users growing up. So, we'll have to see. I'll have to see how that goes. Next up, of course, was the Ahsoka segment. Of course, they had its own panel later on. We got the new trailer, which we already broke down quite a bit during my trailer reaction and during the initial go through. We could go through it now, but I'm not sure we're going to go through the whole trailer now. It's kind of been out there for a little while.
Go check out PLD's reaction and our thing. We need to push traffic to those videos. If you haven't seen it, PLD did a great reaction. Go watch it. And I woke up in the ungodly hour of 11 a.m. on Saturday morning to talk about the panel.
That's right.
So go watch that.
So
it wasn't all for naught.
Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. I was excited. I was just lay it off here and say I was very excited about the trailer. It shows a lot of different things. We got to see Sabine, Hera, Chopper. Got to meet a couple of dark side-ish users with orange lightsabers instead of red, which Filoni has determined it was definitely specifically meant to happen. We got to see the back of the Blue Man's head in the more exclusive footage. We got to see the Blue Man's head full on as they announced Lars Mikkelsen playing, which was probably the least.
We got to shout out Brian Ward again. I'm sorry, I have every chance we get, I have to shout out that absolute wizard of a human being. That dude is.
Yeah, search him out on Twitter.
The things he can do with Photoshop is just chef.
Search him out on Twitter, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Looking at the speculation he was doing in between day 1 and day 2 before Lars was actually officially announced. Still, the least guarded secret, I think, was that he was going to play Thrawn at that point. But yeah, a lot of coolness in that trailer. It got me very hyped to where we're going. They said the thing, obviously, Heir to the Empire. It feels like Ahsoka is really trying to do the impossible. It's always the impossible to please everybody, right? I feel like it's trying to reach out to some of the fans who may not love the Disney era, but have like strong feelings about Heir to the Empire back in the day. That was their EU, that was their canon. Trying to incorporate with some of those, but at the same time, the Rebels crew is heavily involved as well. So
you meant sorry to cut you off. When you said Heir to the Empire, there, I walked past the celebration stage. When they were airing the Ahsoka trailer, and I heard the quote of her saying Thrawn is the heir to the Empire. I stopped dead, and the first thing I did was pull up my phone and say, please have signal, please have signal. I need to tell POD what I just heard. Luckily, there was no reception in that area, but by the celebration stage, there was a smidgen of reception. And I was like, I have to tell POD what I just heard. And the message I sent you was, oh, fuck, they just said Heir to the Empire in the trailer.
Luckily, and I saw it after the fact, but yeah, I was headlogging into the trailer at that point myself because they announced pretty much into it. But yeah, it was exciting news, obviously. But they're trying to do the impossible. I think they can actually succeed. If anyone's going to succeed, it's going to be Dave Filoni and the crew.
Didn't you speculate a couple of episodes ago that they would say Heir to the Empire at some point? You said something to that effect of like, is Thrawn going to say Heir to the Empire at some point?
Nope.
I think I'm gonna give you credit for that.
I did at
'Cause
one point after you
I'm
said that.
80%. I'm like 95% sure you said it a few episodes ago.
I don't know if it was on the show or if it was actually backstage, but at one point I definitely
No,
mentioned
no, no. It was on a show. I remember it being on a show.
So wouldn't be surprised because I actually thought that was going to. I thought for a long time that was going to be the case. Because bringing in Thrawn makes sense. So let's lean into it. And I think that's what they want to do a little bit. So yeah, that was the Ahsoka part. We got to see some cool bits there. Getting Mary Elizabeth Winstead on stage as well. It was very cool overall. So then we went into a different section. I'm going to jump a little forward. So we ended the panel with the Indiana Jones trailer and the Indiana Jones 5 segment, which is beautiful. I love that trailer. Watch me react to that one. I cried and teared up like a baby. I was so powerful, so good. I can't wait for it to come out. But there's not a lot of news there. It's basically it's happening, and here's your new trailer. But let's get back then. We jump back. Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy comes on. This was actually funny. I'm going to shout out Molly Damon. She made me laugh. So I was following along. All of a sudden, she tweets, "Oh, so no movie news. Oh, okay." Because at the time it did start late. It was only supposed to go 90 minutes. And by the time like they were talking about Ahsoka, we were like pretty much 90 minutes in, maybe 85 minutes in. I was like, oh, I guess they're not going to announce any movies. Oh, well. And 2 seconds later, she tweeted, I was wrong because Kathleen Kennedy came on stage.
We were talking about that. I was like, why did you say you were wrong? You should have just said psych.
That's funny. That was funny, actually. Well, Kathleen Kennedy came on stage and she announced that we have 3 new films. But even more than the 3 new films to me, and we'll get into those 3 films, they announced that they have an era set up now. They have broken it down into eras, and I'll put this up there. This is not an official image. This was made by iGucci on Star Wars, on one of the Star Wars Reddit pages. But it was the most professional image I've seen so far. This is the canon timeline that was revealed.
Alex Damon's love language. Timelines.
Exactly. Alex Damon's love language. We have Dawn of the Jedi, the Old Republic, the High Republic, Fall of the Jedi, Reign of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, the New Republic, Rise of the First Order, and New Jedi Order. Now, obviously, the High Republic is the book series we got, and the Acolytes Legends there. Fall of the Jedi is obviously the prequels. Reign of the Empire is between 3 and 4. Age of Rebellion is the original trilogy. New Republic is where Mando takes place. Rise of the First Order is a sequel trilogy. So that leaves a lot to play with. And Kathleen Kennedy has said there are projects being developed, whether it be movie or TV or animated or whatever, in every one of those eras. And that makes me very excited. But specifically for this particular announcements that were being made, 3 of the eras were tapped: the Dawn of the Jedi era, the New Republic era, and the New Jedi Order era. Now, what we have in place here is, I'm going to go through here. First one we're going to talk about was James Mangold. I don't remember what order she talked about it, but I just put it in order. So we're just going to talk about this order that I have. James Mangold, the biblical epic that takes place 25,000 years ago, before Phantom Menace said. He's nicknamed it, as later on in an interview, he later on said he's nicknamed it Star Wars Zero because it's the origin of the Force. All new characters in an all new era. This is fascinating to me. Dawn of the Jedi is a totally different kind of thing we've ever seen in TV or movies. And James Mangold was kept completely hush-hush. No one, that was not even in the rooms or rumors. Back in the day, he was talking about doing a Boba Fett movie at one point, way back when Disney first bought Star Wars, and that kind of petered out. No one had spoken his name in Star Wars language in forever. So it's right there.
I asked so many people from so many reputable news sites, IGN, Screen Rant. None of them knew.
Right.
This was kept so under the rug. Not a soul knew. So for them to keep this shush, incredible. Everyone was like, "Whoa,
nice.
okay."
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, absolutely. That's what's cool about it, man. I mean, it makes sense. And I'll touch base on this now. We'll touch base as we go through the movies. There's some speculation of, obviously, Lucasfilm has had some press leaks, didn't happen, things didn't happen, people getting upset because films are shelved, yada, 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 yada. I think all 3 of these movies get made, and I think all 3 of these movies are locked in. One reason specifically why for this one, James Mangold just did Indiana Jones 5. Obviously, they have a great working relationship with Lucasfilm. He has a great working relationship with Lucasfilm. They have a great working relationship with him. So I think it's locked in. He's ready to go. It's going to take a little bit. He's got some things he's going to do. I'm going to guess that if the 2025, 2027, 2029 timeline is still accurate, which we don't know, that was a leak as well. We could actually absolutely get back into one Star Wars film a year. That could absolutely happen. But if these three are being penciled into 2025, 2027, 2029, I think this is the 2029 one because he's got Swamp Thing he wants to do. He's doing something else as well. I think this is going to take place then. Okay, let's move on then. The second one we're going to talk about, Dave Filoni is finally getting a film, finally getting a movie. Long been in the works, I believe, ever since he went from animation to live action. This has kind of been his training ground. But not only that, he's directing a film that will culminate the years of the Mandoverse story. So this is what Kathleen Kennedy mentioned when she said it was going to culminate into a big climactic event. This is the big climactic event. Now, I want to touch base really quickly. There's some people out there that have said that they, for some reason, they thought that this meant the Mandalorian was ending. I don't think that's necessarily true.
I know who you're talking about. Dummies.
Not necessarily true at all. I think that nobody ever said that. It's like Avengers Endgame culminated the years of the Marvel cinema storyline, and we still have movies afterwards. I think it's the same kind of situation here. But either way, this was great news because I love Dave Filoni. And it's another reason why this was going to be locked in. Dave Filoni ain't going anywhere. And connected to the Mandoverse is probably the most locked in of the three, absolutely, at this point.
There was all this talk about like Filoni was thinking of leaving, and the like Filoni and Kathleen weren't happy with each other. If there is one person who Disney and Lucasfilm are never gonna let go, it's Filoni.
Man of that.
No, I don't think he ever will. I don't think he'll ever get to a point where he's even thinking about it. And if he ever does, the big man in the flannel shirt is going to come to him and say, "Kid, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, you think George is going to let anyone else have the reins?
No, he's in there to be there. He's in there to be the George Lucas apparent at this point. He is the creative guy. So I think exactly what you think. He's sticking around. But either way, I was happy to get the announcement. That's the big thing. I'm happy to have it absolutely take place. Very exciting overall. So
he's graduated now. Like he's at the big kids. I think Ahsoka is going to be the test. Not the test, but the warm up.
Yeah, I agree.
He needs to. He's done enough live action now. He's got a whole season a whole big season with a huge show under his belt. This is the next logical step for his career.
Absolutely. And I've heard some people say his directing, his few episodes of his directing have been uneven. And I'm like, that's okay. That's okay when you think about it. I mean, it's their first steps into a larger world. He's still learning some of these things.
Hey, George Lucas isn't exactly the great director, but we still got, out of the three that he did, we still got Phantom and Revenge.
He's actually, I think George is a great director in terms of different things. He's just a great script writer. That's what George's problem has always been, his stilted dialogue and things of that nature. Filoni's just translating from animated to live action. I feel like he's taking his first steps. I think getting him on Ahsoka, getting him more like fully in charge will get that more. I think by the time he gets to filming his movie, I think he'll be ready to go. And I think he'll make that an epic story that we won't forever truly forget. So, finally, the third film that was announced, I think this is the one that's going to be in 2025 at this point. This is the one that's been talked about most recently. The quote-unquote David Lindelof one until recently. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy came out, and she's directing a new film set in the New Jedi Order era, which is 15 years post-Battle of Exegol. And they also decided to bring out a certain Jedi Master. In terms of Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley on board. She will be in leading this charge in a new film, which for all intents and purposes is pretty much episode 10. I mean, it's not part of the Skywalker saga. It's not going to be labeled as such, but it is still the continuation of that storyline to a degree.
Just call it episode 10. No one's really going to care. People might pretend to be outraged like they do with everything. Oh, it's episode 10 of us. It's not this stuff. Shut up. It's the 10th Star Wars. It's the 10th movie in this storyline. Therefore, it's episode 10.
Pretty much is, and I'm okay with that. We did not get any word on any other returning castmates, such as John Boyega or Oscar Isaac or anybody like that. But I got to feel like that's going to be at least discussed or maybe announced in the future. Who knows? Maybe nothing's ready yet.
If any of them do, I have a strong feeling it'll be John Boyega. I feel like he's ready. I feel like time has.
Well,
Enough
laying
time's
the
passed.
groundwork. Let's lay the groundwork down before you had Daisy. You had the sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire, and I hate the scoop culture, and I hate that it sometimes dictates things or it speculates on things and makes things irresponsible. And then when something doesn't happen, you're like, well, what the fuck? But I am guilty of reading into tea leaves as well. I just choose not to get too upset about it if something doesn't happen. But if you read the tea leaves, Daisy Ridley had a meeting with Lucasfilm. It was publicly announced, not publicly announced, but it was talked about
Lunch
on
with
her
friends,
Instagram.
right?
Lunch with friends, right? And all of a sudden, here we go. It's interesting that this is in development and kind of under the radar, though. A month ago or 2 months ago, there was an interview with John Boyega, who had been openly not against, but was very openly upset about how Finn was treated, and was very, very openly not happy with what had happened, and that he was done with Star Wars and he was happy to leave it. If you read between the leaves, he kind of felt like he was pretty upset about how something went down, maybe what he was promised or what his character was supposed to do, and how his character was kind of sidelined. And that was the argument that was made a little bit for Rise of Skywalker. And that's fine, whatever. But then just recently there was an interview with him where he had definitely softened his stance, in that he seemed like he was okay with Lucasfilm, and he had some meetings with some people. He actually had talked to Kathleen Kennedy directly at one point. So all of a sudden that's happened. Why did that meeting take place? Because if he was truly done, wouldn't he not even worry about it? Would he not even, I'm worried about it. He just kind of like, okay, I'm done that, I'm moving on, whatever. I kind of feeling it's where there's smoke, there's fire again, in a little bit of a lesser way. I wouldn't be surprised if we had an announcement sometime from that as well. So
Oscar Isaac wants his second house, so I imagine he'll be involved.
I got a feeling Oscar Isaac will just do about what he's happy not coming back, but he's also happy coming back. Because also he loves the people too. He loves Daisy. He loves, if John does come back, he loves John. So I got a feeling he'll have a lot of fun with it.
The one that I think won't, obviously for more than just story's sake, I think Driver is on the hunt for an Oscar, and I think from his background in the military, like he seems focused. Like I'll come back. I may come back to it one day, but I need to go get this Oscar.
Just fine. Ben Solo's dead anyway, so technically speaking, he doesn't have to be part of it. Could he be?
If they need him for a voice, like
I could see him coming back for a cameo for a Force Ghost from that potentially. Maybe, who knows? A lot of places. We're in an open era. We have no idea what's going to happen. But either way, I'm excited. I think this is the first one's coming out to play. They did not make any announcements on dates, which is interesting to me. Probably smart to me, because I feel like they want to leave things open when they're like locked in. They had the plan that was leaked that was 2025, 2027, 2029, but maybe they're going to change the plan. Who knows? But I think the 2025 is a good guess. It's a good guess for where we're going to go with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go with that. That was the Lucasfilm Studio panel. I want to tie in one more thing. Kathleen Kennedy had a number of interviews afterwards, and I really feel like it's important to say, I feel like Kathleen Kennedy, since the switching of the Bobs, as it were, the return of the good Uncle Bob, I feel like they have kind of switched their stance on things, and I think he and Kathleen might have had some kind of meeting. Kathleen Kennedy was very straightforward. There was a shift in how she handled the press. Before, she was always very kind of like vague about things and was trying to keep things secretive. This was a different Kathleen Kennedy. This was she had some things where she was asked questions, and she's like, bring on your questions. I will tell you exactly what is true, what is not true, where we are, what's going on, what's not going on. It was very direct answers on a multitude of projects. Specifically, Kathleen Kennedy had a lot of different things to say about a lot of different things. First of all, when she was asked about Dave Filoni, she said, it hasn't been something we just decided. It's actually, I feel, something we've been working towards, and he's been working towards for at least a decade. So this is an evolving process. Nothing happens overnight, but it's really thrilling to see him take the step. He's obviously taking all this work he's been doing in animation and now in television with Jon Favreau, and he's moving some of these storylines in the future space. So there's going to be a lot of people recognized. I wouldn't do it without Dave. Dave created so much of what was in Clone Wars and Rebels, and that extension of what storytelling is something that's Dave's. And certainly working with him to try to evolve that into what we do in live action, whether it's a series or whether we go into features, that's something that we would do with him.
Yeah.
Then she was asked about James Mangold directly. She said, I've been following Jim for years, for a long time. I mean, his work has consistently been so good. And certainly when he did Indy, it was clear that he was a real filmmaker and loved the movie and loved Star Wars. He always has.
Logan.
Exactly. Look at the Wolverine. Look at a lot of different things. Look at oh god, Ford versus Ferrari. He always had.
Oh, yeah, he did that, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was clear as a filmmaker loves movie and he loves Star Wars. He always has, and he's constantly been in my ear. Hey, maybe, maybe, maybe. And then he came up with the idea. We sat down and talked to Dave about it, Dave Filoni, and Carrie Beck, and all of us agreed that this would be a really good next step. She was asked about Rey. It's huge. We're 15 years off from the Rise of Skywalker, so we're kind of post-war, post-First Order, and the Jedi are in disarray. There's a lot of discussion around who are the Jedi, what are they doing, what's the state of the galaxy, and she's attempting to rebuild the Jedi Order based on the books, based on what she promised Luke. So that's where we're going. I don't know if we'll spend a lot of time in flashbacks or Force Ghosts or things like that, but certainly the spirit of what Luke represents to her is going to be significant. That was where the first big thing they talked about as far as the announced movies go. Now, here's where we get into what I was talking about as far as speculation about things that are whatever. They asked about shelved projects. And she said, well, they haven't been shelved. Most things haven't been shelved. Development is a complicated long-term process. Some people were dealing with scheduling because obviously really talented people are working. So it's often not a shelving. Is it ready? That's what it comes down to. Kevin Feige's project was something announced to the press, or I suppose fandom, but that was nothing. There was nothing ever developed. We never really discussed an idea. As everybody knows, Kevin's a huge Star Wars fan, and if he did come up with something, I would be all ears. But that's never really happened. It's not an abandoned project. It just didn't happen. I'm going to stop the pause there. Some people have quick to jump on this statement and say, "Well, she lied because Kevin Feige said it was happening." He said that Michael Waldron was going to write the script. Yada yada yada. To me, it's like Kevin Feige probably had maybe an idea, pitched it to Michael Waldron to write the script up, to write a draft up or whatever. I don't think he and Kathleen Kennedy ever went beyond, I have a kind of a cool idea. I want to develop something and see what you think. And then Kevin realized, oh shit, I got to do a lot more with Marvel. I can't do this now. We'll do this maybe later on. I think that's as simple as it comes down to, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on further, Rogue Squadron. That is definitely something we still talk about, whether it's a movie or whether it ends up being in the series space. That's definitely something that's not shelved. Taika Waititi. Taika is still working away. Yes, about Taika Waititi, specifically right on the nose. Taika is still working away. He's writing the script himself. He doesn't really want to bring others into that process, and I don't blame him. He has a very, very unique voice, so we want to protect that, and that's what he's doing. But we're going to make that one day. Okay, so it's not announced because they're just not ready to announce it. Taika is working on, I believe he's working on Akira and other things as well. When Taika finishes the script of what they want to do, he'll pitch it. And at this point, Kathleen wants to make it. It's not shelved, just not happening yet.
Okay.
Rian Johnson. Ryan and I talk all the time. He is unbelievably busy, so we're not actively involved in anything at the moment because he's doing another one of the Glass Onion movies and then God knows what else. But he really wants to step back into the space. It's a big commitment of time, so that's really on him. Okay, so basically it's saying we like Rian Johnson, like working with Rian Johnson. If Rian Johnson gets that time to commit to developing what he wants to develop and actually can commit to it, then we'll get back to it. Right now, it's not active. It's not shelved. It's not shelved. It's just we're going to make it someday, and we're just not any rush to do it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there.
Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan season 2. I was actually very happy to read this. Not happy to read it, but happy to read it before I saw the panel because I was expecting the panel to have the news drop of season 2. I was like 50-50 is going to be a news drop of season 2. They asked her specifically about it, and she said, Obi-Wan 2 is not an active development, but I never say never because there's always the possibility. That show was so well received, and Deborah Chow did such a spectacular job. Ewan McGregor really wants to do another. Everybody's all hands on deck with what we're doing right now, as you can see, but what we showed everybody, what we announced, we'll turn our attention to that again maybe down the road. So all of a sudden, right from that goes, like, okay, well, we're not getting an announcement tomorrow because obviously it's not ready yet. I do find it interesting at the end of that panel we talked about, though, the end of the Obi-Wan panel, Ewan did try to pump up the crowd and was like, I'd like to do more. I would like to see more.
Yeah, and I mean, who wouldn't want Obi-Wan Kenobi back? I mean, I've got an argument that the most pivotal character in all of Star Wars is Obi-Wan Kenobi. But that's for another day. Yeah, more Obi-Wan, more Ewan, that's fine. I think he's got 3 movies in project right now. He's got one, I can't remember the name of it. He's got Everest, and then I believe they're doing a 3rd Trainspotting movie.
I think so.
I think I heard some of they're doing a 3rd Trainspotting movie. So that's a good few years out of his life, which works because then he gets a little bit more towards the age of Sir Alec Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's a perfect re-entry point into the life of Obi-Wan, that middle point of where he is now and where Charlotte Guinness left off.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, again, I like the fact that it's direct. It's like, yep, we are not in active development on that, so don't report that we are. Could it happen? Absolutely, we're open to it, but nothing as of yet. Fine, I can't argue that. Lando. Someone actually talked to her about Lando because of Donald Glover's recent statements. Where I don't know if you read that article. I read it. I mentioned on the news last week. Or he was pretty much, we're talking about it. She said, I can just tell you, it's still happening, and he's still very excited about it. Okay, so we just don't have anything to announce yet, but it's not shelved. It's not a shelved project. They're just having Donald Glover finding the time to do it, to find the right idea to make it work. They're both still working on it. They both just haven't announced anything because there's nothing to announce yet. It's the difference between something not happening and something that just isn't happening right now. So,
and here's the thing: when something is shelved, when you put something on the shelf, that means I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to get it later.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think a lot of people seem to be misconstruing the term project being shelved with, oh, well, that's done. No, when you put something on the shelf, that means you are putting it somewhere to pick it up again later.
100%.
You're not throwing it in the bin. You're putting it on the shelf.
100%.
Big difference.
100%. Okay, that was all from those. Oh, also, finally, the Crawls are returning. Crawls are returning to the movies, and I'm
Adam Witt's going to be thrilled with that news.
Absolutely, and it makes sense. I love the fact that that's way diversified between the films and the TV. Let them returning. The Crawls are the movies, and that's fine. I think Rogue One missed it. I missed it when Rogue One didn't have it, and I'm excited to have it back. So
I can hear the sighs of relief that no one has to line them for the Schmodown anymore.
That's for damn sure. They were easy pickings for stuff, but okay. We had two more pieces of news that I would say were. There's a lot of news announced on the publishing side, things of that nature. We don't really get into that, or else we'd be here for 3 years. So we're going to talk about just the two more pieces of news that were for television purposes and film purposes. There's always recaps on StarWars.com as well as on Star Wars Newsnet. I particularly can't wait for the Timelines book that's coming out, where that's actually going to be a deep dive into the timelines. That looks fantastic. A lot of comic storylines coming on, a lot of High Republic stuff coming on. I actually love the High Republic panel. Had I'm blanking on her name. Thank you, Leslie Headland, come into the panel. They showed the Acolyte trailer to them as well, and they announced that
I should have gone to that damn panel. In my head, I was like, okay, Alex and Molly's panel is right after. I'm going to go and queue for that. I can skip the High Republic panel. I'm a fucking idiot because they were in the panel.
Oh, were they?
I could have just walked in with them.
Right, absolutely. Ernesto Rowe is making her debut on live action from the High Republic, and that's kind of a cool thing because I know High Republic has a lot of huge fans. Sort of connecting that with the TV film side of things is major, and it's huge for them. I've always been on the record of saying I like the High Republic quite a bit, but I kind of have fallen behind on it, so I'm not all invested like as some people are. But I'm happy enough that it's.
I got Cataclysm yesterday. I haven't read it yet.
Okay, that's fine. All right. I haven't gotten that part yet. I actually went back and started rereading Light of the Jedi to kind of reread the whole segment again. I will admit that Phase 2 I wasn't necessarily on board with them jumping back again. Like it feels like we started this moving forward and we're jumping back and now we're going forward.
That makes sense. It's what the movies did.
Yeah, I get it, and I get it. I know it seems hypocritical announcing that, right? But we had so much time in between, and but either way, it's working out okay. It threw me for a loop as far as like, okay, well, what am I doing with this now? But yeah, I'm still reading it. I'm so happy with it. Overall, I give it a definitely positive experience. I'm just not as rabid about it as some of the High Republic fans are. And more credit to them if they love it. I'm very happy for them. They definitely got some bonuses there. But the rest of the news pieces that dropped, there was the Clone Wars 15th anniversary panel, which I was very excited to watch. It was very fun to watch. A great panel. T. Bradley Baker, they were Ashley Eckstein. They were all so phenomenal.
I love D. Bradley Baker, man. Me too. We'll get into it. I'm guessing the next piece of news is about Bad Batch, but
we will get to that next. But at the end of the panel, I wasn't expecting news from this panel. This is where it's funny. I expected it from Obi-Wan, didn't expect it from this. And Dave Filoni mentioned doing Tales of the Jedi. He mentioned how he loved the animation of the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars returning to Clone Wars and be able to finish what he started was awesome. He loved the Bad Batch. He loved starting the Bad Batch, and that his team has really done an amazing job as far as animation goes. Obviously, being Jennifer Corbett, Brad Rao, and all those on the writing crew. And he was actually jealous, and he wishes the animation for the first season of Clone Wars was as good as the first season of Bad Batch. Because the animation is beautiful. But Bad Batch actually inspired him to come back, and that's where Tales of the Jedi Season 1 came from. He had been writing these little short segments on the airplane rides while he was going back and forth between Skywalker Ranch and
It's like writing them on napkins and stuff on planes.
Things, showing them to to carry back and all the Lucasfilm people, and like, well, why don't you make these? He's like, well, I guess I could make these shorts. Made 6 shorts, obviously, the 3 Ahsoka, 3 Count Dooku. He said the quote at this panel was, "Tales of the Jedi was so fun the first time, I decided to do some more. What's become apparent to me is the Jedi have to continue to teach their Padawans, and I have to continue to teach my Padawans in animation, so that Lucasfilm animation can continue to be strong." That's exciting. So it seems like Dave's not going to just do it this time. He's going to actually push his other folks on doing more. To that, I mean, I'm speculating. I think it's responsible enough speculation. I kind of feel like we might be getting more this time. Instead of getting the 6 episodes that Dave wrote, we'll get like maybe a full season, maybe 16 episodes or so with different people pitching different storylines. Maybe Dave gets a few. Want? What do you want?
Just give me Dark Disciple. Just give us Dark Disciple.
I wonder if they could do that. I feel like they've been hesitant about directly adapting a storyline, but maybe they will. Maybe they would.
He seems to have taken a couple liberties with the Ahsoka book.
That's true. That's very true. You're not wrong there. That'd be a big undertaking. That'd be the whole season, though. If you do Dark Disciple, I mean, that's I'm
okay with that. Yeah.
I'd rather not do that. Gotta be honest with you. I'd rather not that because I like the book and the audiobook. I want to see some of these more smaller takes. Like I have the idea. This is where we get Luke and Ahsoka's fireside chat. This is where we get. This is where we get Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon visiting Mandalore and meeting Duchess Satine for the first time. This is where we get all those like small tales that maybe don't necessarily fit in the narrative of these overall series, but they are fascinating to think about. That's where we can slide this in. We can get High Republic stories. We can get post New Jedi Order stories. We can get any which way throughout the possibilities of history. We can get a Luke Skywalker story. I don't want to. That's why I don't want to. I just want to devote 8 episodes of for the Dark Disciple. I don't want to devote. I want to get all these different possibilities out there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anything but punk row. All my homies hate punk row.
Fair enough.
Anything but punk. No punk row stories, Dave.
With that being said, Punk row meeting up with Dooku and learning and falling to the dark side is possibly an interesting tale.
Nope. Keep punk row off the screen. Nope.
But I like the idea. I mean, does that mean we could? I want to put it out there. This is speculation, so we could just get another 6 episodes. It could be 2 other Jedis, and that's it. But there's potential there, and I hope it gets tapped.
You know who I want more of? Who? And I do want it more in live action. Keller and Beck. Set some stuff up with Keller and Beck in animation.
Absolutely. There's another place we could fill in the gaps there. Quinlan Voss. You mentioned Dark Disciple. We could get some Quinlan Voss.
If you're doing Quinlan Voss, just do Dark Disciple. Don't break my heart like this.
I kind of hope. You know what I would hope for is we keep developing things out to develop things out. We actually get a Dark Disciple animated movie.
Oh, we haven't had an animated movie in a while.
Instead of, we haven't really had a full, so it's the Clone Wars was the only animated movie we got. We get like one-shots off. We can get a one-shot animated movie. Instead of taking up a series, get the one-shot animated movie that gets all Dark Disciple, boom, like that. That's something I would love to see. That's what I'm holding out hope for. All right, we have one little piece of news before we wrap up our nearly 2-hour episode. Been a long one, this one, but I've been excited.
This is why I said we should do Mando first.
And as we've blown through this, it feels like we just started though, because times flies when you're having fun. You were in this panel, the Bad Batch season. It was a Bad Batch season 2 panel talking about everything that went down. But let's face it, we were all looking forward to the end and what was going to happen, because it was, again, we saw the end of season 2. We knew what had to happen. We knew there had to be some kind of wrap up. They wouldn't leave us like that, just without any kind of wrap up. That would be absolutely cruel. We got the announcement that this is there will be one more season of Bad Batch, season 3, a finale that is the final season. It's a little bit of a mixed blessing. I know a bunch of us out there wanted 4 or 5 seasons of the Bad Batch, and I am one of them. I would love to have seen these guys continue for a while. But given the fact that we felt like it was wrapping up in season 2 at some points, I'm excited that we get a full season and that we get a season where they know they had to get the end on their terms. We know exactly what's going down. It's not going to be a vague ending. They're going to get the chance to end the story the way they want to end the story.
Yeah.
And beyond that, you guys got the in-room teaser trailer, which we should have gotten. Damn it.
So I real quick want to shout out Michelle Ang and D. Bradley Baker, especially D. Bradley Baker, because he was doing all the voices, and like when he did Tech, when he spoke as Tech, it was like during Michelle Ang's, like she was talking about the flying scene. And then out of nowhere, D. Bradley Baker said the line about her being an incredible student, an exceptional student, not a dry eye in the house. And like I was tearing up, everyone was tearing up. That's when and that's when Michelle Ang started being like, "Oh yeah, we're not getting him back." And I know I saw a lot of people say that she said he didn't come back at the end of this episode. This is where people need to start reading into body language, because she was very physically emotional whenever talking about Tech. Like, I don't think people understand what it takes for an actor to bury a character. There's a really great interview. I give him shit all the time. Charlie Hunnam talking about burying the character of Jax Teller. There are so many books on how to build a character, but there are no books on telling you how to say goodbye to one. There's none. And as soon as they brought him up, the vibe changed, and it was almost like a funeral. And Jennifer Corbett even came out and basically put the nail in the coffin and said he's gone. So I am physically preparing to be like, he's gone. And that was the sacrifice needed. And a lot of people are saying how like Michelle Ang had that moment at the end of it of saying he's not back at the end of this episode. From her reaction, and I am very good at like reading body reactions, she and D. Bradley Baker is still grieving that loss. I don't think that is it's something that they'll ever really like get over. And it speaks to what I said about you can build a character all you want. You can't bury them, like, because they're not there. They are forever going to be a part of you, but they're not around. So to see someone like have that emotion for a character like Tech just spoke to like the how important I think his sacrifice is going to be for this, because the footage we got, you thought this season was dark. Holy crap. I turned to my friend Brad, who was sitting next to me, and I was like, did we really just fucking see that?
Oh man.
There was a lot of like, there was some moments of like Wrecker blowing stuff up and like laughing, and we see Echo and we see Rex at one point. Should I say one of the big things that I saw?
I think you can, because there actually was I don't understand. I actually honestly don't understand why we didn't get this trailer. This is one of the ones they should have put out there, because
it's in production still. The season isn't finished yet, so I feel like if they put this out now, I think it might be a bit early. I think we're not going to get this until next year.
But what I'm saying is, obviously, because StarWars.com actually released like a blow by blow of the teaser.
Okay.
They mentioned, like, they said something like, I'll read you what they said, then you can extrapolate from there.
Okay.
An in-room teaser trailer was shown at the end of the panel, giving fans a sneak peek at season 3. It began with the Emperor, once again voiced by Palpatine actor Ian McDiarmid, visiting Dr. Royce Hemlock, leader of the Empire's cloning efforts on Mount Tantus. It is imperative that this facility remains secure. Palpatine says, your brilliance is a great asset to this empire. All members of the Bad Batch appear, with Hunter addressing Omega's capture at the hand of the Empire. Omega's been waiting for us. I'm not making her wait another day. We see Omega and a Southern Crosshair both still in Imperial custody. I'm not giving up, Crosshair. Omega tells him, "I won't leave you either. You're my brother." Throughout, there are glimpses of several worlds and commandos, including Republic commandos, clones, Rex,
Damn you, Scorch.
plenty of giant creatures. Why is there always a huge monster? Wrecker asks before dropping the third detonator in one's mouth. And Ming-Na Wen's fan favorite bounty hunter, Fennec Shand.
Okay.
So that's what we got the write-up of. I don't know if there was a lot more to it or not. I did hear...
It was a bit more.
I heard one specific clone character. I did hear that one specific clone character return that was on the Twitter from people watching. I'm going to spoil it. I'm going to spoil it and say there. Give you 5 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wolf.
And we're back. Okay, so the return of one clone is definitely back in play. Hopefully more. But yeah, so tell me about what your thoughts were at this point from this after hearing that reading.
Seeing Palpatine flanked by a battalion of ARC troopers arriving on Tantis was very much a, oh fuck. Like, this is like we're in the end game of this now, because that's obviously where he stored not just the cloning facility, that's where he stores like all his Force artifacts and stuff. That is like his, I don't want to say his beach house, but like that's like his vault on the Cayman Islands,
right?
If we will.
Right, absolutely.
That's where he keeps all the stuff that he doesn't want people to see. And just that image alone was like, oh my god. There was a line where Rex mentions that Omega's on Tantis, so they found out.
Okay.
They find out where she is.
Okay.
They get the information somehow.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a lot of fun with Wrecker, but there was just this sense of an impending doom coming.
That's fair.
And obviously, you know, the Zillo Beast is in there as well.
But still no Hondo. God damn it.
Still no Hondo. But there was also Crosshair says a line where he says, "I'm not them."
Mm-hmm.
And you see Crosshair, he's been beaten down. Crosshair has been broken at this point. And that was really like, oh crap. Because he's the blank canvas. He's not Mr. No Emotion.
Right.
So seeing him, like, I think beyond it, the breaking point at this point was very, wow, what the hell are they doing to them in there?
Would it be interesting? And this is completely out of left field irresponsible speculation. Would it be interesting if at the end of Bad Batch and with Crosshair and Omega going off together?
I mean, yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean they're dead or they go off in their own thing, and Omega and Crosshair end up working up together so well they end up becoming a team. And Crosshair, the redemption of Crosshair comes through, and he becomes like this. Maybe not. He's not never going to be a good guy, but he travels the galaxy with like Omega being his conscience and him trying to protect what fellowship he has left, kind of thing.
Yeah, or maybe they just all die, because from the amount of ARC troopers that I saw out at Mount Tantis, I was like, oh crap.
Fair.
But,
I do think Echo's got to go this season. I think that's going to happen because I do think, because at the end of the day, Echo is not one to retire. Like the Bad Batch, you could actually say retires and goes off, and that's it. And I get that. That's fine. Echo is not one to retire, and we know where Rex, Wolf, and Gregor end up in Rebels.
I'm going to say, I don't think Echo does. I think Cody's going to bite the bullet.
I wouldn't be surprised at that either. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think because obviously he's the commander, he's the big dog out of a lot of them. I think him and Scorch are going to go toe to toe. But I will just say, I want to shout out my friend Joe, who dressed up as Tech.
Nice.
For Celebration.
Very nice. That's awesome.
So, and he was taking like loads of pictures with kids and stuff. So
that's cool.
I want to shout him out for that. And yeah,
absolutely.
The Bad Batch. Who would have thought that the Bad Batch has become like the premier Star Wars animation show?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been phenomenal. I will also throw out there the one thing about the one potential not drawback, I don't know, negative about Cody being the big bad is there's a chance that somebody Lucasfilm will say keep Cody alive, because if we do an Obi-Wan season 2, that might be the place to put him in play.
Yeah.
So I kind of feeling that might be, because sometimes they do that, and unfortunately sometimes that.
But they love to break our hearts. So we get the tragedy of that moment never happening.
Never know. So all right, either way. But yeah, that was pretty much the ending of the panels and big news bits, at least the film and television side of things. Why don't you wrap us up with your overall experience?
Logistical issues aside, because there were quite a few, those have now been resolved. I'm not going to go into why, though. Yeah, it was great. There were different eras of Star Wars being celebrated, the sequels right through to Old Republic stuff. Like I saw booths open up for SWOTOR and like Old Republic games. The 501st showed the hell out. Uh, those guys put on photo ops, events with fans. I think what the work that they do is fantastic. Um, it was just overall a great vibe of doing what it says on the tin of celebrating Star Wars. People realized very quickly, okay, we're not going to get into all these panels. We're still going to make the most of it. And I found like as the days went on, everyone just kind of there was a switch in the vibe. The first couple of days, everyone was a bit like, I don't know.
All right.
But once we got into it, I started seeing more conversations pick up, like between random people, people asking to take pictures with cosplayers. I had a photo taken with a guy who was dressed as a clone trooper, but with a Buzz Lightyear paint job. Yeah, the vibe just eased off. I don't know what else to say other than like the friendships made, I will take going forward forever. These are people that I've watched their shows and like we've been on a familiar internet basis, but now like spending time with them in person and like talking about Star Wars and like getting to know each other on a personal level. I can't stress this enough. The internet community does not represent the overall fan community as a whole. It really doesn't. You go to Celebration, and this is where people really come and profess their love for this thing that we've all loved since we were kids.
Yeah.
And one of the Ken mentioned this on the not only on the Star Wars Celebration panel, but he mentioned this on the Force Center podcast. We were walking out of the building on the Saturday, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a little fight, like couldn't been any more than 5-6 years old. This little girl dressed as Rey, like this tiny little girl dressed as Rey, and she had the staff and everything. Anyone here that's saying these new movies are going to fix the sequels, any of these movies are going to retcon the sequels, look that little girl in the eye and tell her she's wrong for loving the character that she's dressed up as, because I bet you can't. Look that little girl in the face and say you don't know anything about Star Wars. Bet you won't.
Agreed.
And that came straight from Ken. And I have to give Ken credit for that, because as soon as he said that, I was like, you know what? Fuck them all. If that little girl wants to dress as Rey, if there's a guy who wants to dress as... There was a guy dressed as Darth Jar Jar. 2 years ago, I would have been like, that's stupid. Why would you done that? Why would you do that? I saw that and I thought, you know what? That's hilarious. So my thing is this, like, Star Wars is something that we should celebrate, because one day it might not be here. And seeing that little 5-year-old, or seeing that little girl dressed as Rey, and the reaction that Daisy Ridley got when she walked out on stage is exactly, I got the exact same feeling as I did when Hayden got the same reception in Chicago. Like, of course, like, look at that little girl and tell her she's wrong for loving the things that she loves. Look me in the eye and tell me that I'm wrong for loving the prequels. You can't, and you won't. So I'm gonna wrap it up in there. That is my PLD. End it on a positivity moment, but a little more aggressive than you would. But
you always are a little more aggressive than I am. It's okay.
And I also want to say this, and this is a little side tangential. Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw are the two funniest men on the planet.
Yeah, how was their? They had you had a great time at their stand-up show, correct?
I haven't laughed like that in a very long time.
Awesome. I mean, I was very much. That's one of the things I wish I had been there for, because I do find them to be hilarious in their different aspects. So I would see them together at a stand up show would have been great, especially with that audience, that Star Wars type audience, because they're Star Wars fans like us. That's awesome. I'm glad you had such a good time. It does make me definitively want to go to Japan even more. So hopefully I can make that work out. But
here is how we can make this happen, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Get us to 1,000 viewers where we can start monetizing this show, start getting adverts, start getting sponsorships, so then we can hashtag get PLT to Japan. That's the hashtag. Get PLD to Japan.
Oh God, I would never be so crass, but I will let you do that for me.
You can tell I've been hanging out with content creators all week. Huh?
I hope it works. It works. That's great. So, you know what? I will. That is the time to do it. At patreon.com/PLD project. Not necessarily just to get into that. If you do want to support the channel, join a great group of people. We do have a bunch of people in like the Facebook chat. We're doing a lot more. We just had a hangout this month. We're just gonna this last week rather. I'm gonna do some exclusive content for the people as well. If you do want to, support the channel any way you can. This is probably the best way to do so. I just want to shout out Austin Cadell, Jeremiah Morris, Matthew Kearns, Matty Kearns, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, John Listrina, and the rest of you. I couldn't do this without you. I love you guys so much. But even if you can't, I get it. I know not everybody can support that way. Just support by subscribing, liking the channel, sharing the videos out. Join us. Let us know what you want from this show and the other shows on PLD Projects. There's times I wish I made a Star Wars exclusive podcast. Then there's times I talk about other things as well. So I have a whole gamut of things to talk about, whether it be 2 Meter for White Dudes on Film. We just did Tango and Cash and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Great fun movies.
You guys talked about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
That was this week's episode.
Oh yes, I love that movie.
It's a great movie. It's a great fun movie. To talk about Queen this week, I'm taking the Queen content off for this week. We're going to come back next week. Got some stuff on V on Ed Harris. The Harris is coming in the summertime. A lot of good stuff happening. So otherwise, just let us know what you like, and that's the way you can support. If not anything else. I really appreciate the community we've been developing slowly but surely. And we really, really, really respect you guys and appreciate you guys, and hope you guys like us and like what we have to talk about. So, but that's it for this week, folks, I guess. Next week, we'll be back to discuss the finale of The Mandalorian. Can't believe it's over already. It's season finale of The Mandalorian. Then we'll have to figure out content for what we're going to do afterwards. We'll have no shows to review.
We got a couple ideas we're kicking around. We got a fun little fantasy booking thing.
Absolutely.
Could be quite cool. But
I think it'd be very fun. I can't wait to do it as well. So, but that'll be soon. That'll be soon. Until next time, though, folks, of course, the force be with you. Always.
May the force be with you. Always.